Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane DC Direct Batman the Animated Series Mr. Freeze. Now McFarlane is sort of continuing the DC Direct Batman the Animated Series line. Very impressive line. Not exactly McFarlane style, but I think it's pretty cool. So let's take a look at the packaging. As you can see at the top, McFarlane Toys. Collect to build the Condiment King, ages 12 plus. Batman the Animated Series, Mr. Freeze. Here he is in the package. Looks like we have a ton of accessories. The freeze ray, a bunch of hands. One side, Batman the Animated Series, Mr. Freeze. The other side, not much going on. At the back, you can see the Condiment King. You can see the parts you get with Freeze. You can see instructions how to build it. And here is the rest of the wave. At the bottom, there's his barcode, in case that helps anybody. So with no further ado, let's open him up. And I did get the entire wave from Target, and it wasn't easy. The first store I went to only had one figure. The second store I went to, they only had 3 figures. And then a few days later, I finally found Scare. Alright, now that we got this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He comes with 8 alternate hands, totaling 10 interchangeable hands, his freeze gun, a collector's card, and then Condiment King's backpack and ketchup and mustard guns. But before we take a look at all that, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is Mr. Freeze from Batman the Animated Series. He debuted in the episode Heart of Ice, which is one of the best episodes of the entire animated series. You really feel for this guy. He's in his armored suit that keeps him cold, and doubles or triples his strength. Now this is the 3rd different release of the DC Direct Batman the Animated Series Mr. Freeze, and this one has cell shading on it, although it's probably the best out of the wave as far as minimal cell shading. So let's take a look. Start with his face here. He's got the bald head, the red circular glasses. He's got the transparent dome here, which is removable, by the way. Then he has the armored suit. Gray in the middle, black on the sleeves, and it has these sort of blue things on all of his joints. Red boots, red gloves. Looks like single-jointed elbows and single-jointed knees. This is an old figure re-released in the modern day and age. He's got his sort of canister of free stuff on the back. As a whole, it looks very good and very accurate to Batman the Animated Series. One of the coolest things about Mr. Freeze from Batman the Animated Series is, before the Animated Series, he was just sort of a criminal or a thief with a cold gimmick. But Batman the Animated Series redid his origin story, added his wife Nora to the mix, and it stuck. They altered the comics after that, and it's a very good origin. Almost everybody thinks of Mr. Freeze and his wife. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt. Like I said, the dome is removable, and the face looks pretty good. His skin is almost completely white, and he also has red glasses. And then here's the figure broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. The dome comes off, and on mine, the canister on his back comes off, which I don't believe is supposed to come off, but the glue came loose. And you know what? I'm okay with that. It's pretty cool to be able to take that thing off. But I have the original release, and it doesn't come off on that one, so I don't think it's supposed to. But either way, it's not broken, fits right back in, and actually stays pretty securely. Now let's check out his accessories. Let's start off with the boring stuff. Here's his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of Mr. Freeze from Batman the Animated Series. On the back side, there is a description. If you want to read that, pause now. Now let's look at Condiment King's backpack and his ketchup and mustard guns. So the backpack itself, very bland, almost no detail, no paint whatsoever. You can see it should have this sort of meter at the top, and just nothing's painted. Very poorly done. It's got 2 straps for the front, and then his signature guns. They have sort of string going to the front, his ketchup gun, and of course, his mustard gun. If you buy all 4 figures in the wave, you get to collect to build Condiment King. The Condiment King premiered in Batman the Animated Series. He's one of the most obscure Batman villains out there. This guy has whitey tighties, literal underwear instead of trunks. He's got his ketchup mustard guns. He's got a pickle sort of mask. This guy is awesome. I was so happy when I found out they're making this guy. Right up my alley. I love the obscure characters and villains. Now let's check out his hands. He has a total of 10 of them. Here he is with his first pair of hands. These are his fists. And here he is with his second pair of hands. This is a pair of gripping hands with trigger fingers, presumably for his freeze gun. Then, his third pair of hands. This is a pair of gripping hands. Here's his fourth pair of hands. This looks to be a pair of gripping hands. They actually can hold the freeze gun, but I think they're more so a pair of grabbing or throwing hands. And here's his last pair of hands. This is a pair of open hands. They would look good relaxed at his sides. Now let's look at his glass dome. It's made of plastic, pretty thin, pretty basic, but I love when they make stuff like this that's removable. If it wasn't removable, you wouldn't be able to turn his head at all. Pretty well done. Here's Mr. Freeze without the dome, and here he is with the dome attached. Now for his freeze gun. It's sort of like a little freeze pistol, freeze ray. Now, the sculpt is fine, kind of blocky, but it looks like it did in the animated series. But man, it is missing every bit of paint. This thing looks very bland. It looks like it's just straight cast in the original plastic and nothing done to it. That is disappointing. Here are all three versions of this freeze ray that I have. The one on the left is from the single DC Direct Mr. Freeze. The one in the middle from McFarlane's re-release. And the one on the right is from the GCPD Rogues Gallery 5-pack. And the one on the right has the absolute worst paint job of all of them. Here's Mr. Freeze holding that freeze gun. Because of his poor articulation, he can't really point it straight ahead of him. Now an accessory that he didn't come with and he should have come with is this little snow globe of his wife, Nora Freeze. Now this was exclusive to the GCPD Rogues Gallery 5-pack. It was not available with this Mr. Freeze or the single version. And once again, it suffers from absolutely no paint, a gray base, a gray sort of Nora, but it's really cool to have. Now I wanted to check out the differences between this McFarlane re-release Mr. Freeze and the original DC Direct version. We have McFarlane on the left and DC Direct on the right. Now there are some paint differences, but beyond that it's 100% the same figure, same sculpt, same articulation, so let's take a look. So, start with their heads. They're pretty similar. Now the armor, this guy has some cell shading. You can see the line going down here, lines sort of down the arm, same thing on the other arm. The gray's a little darker on the middle of him. I'd say the belt looks a little bit better on the McFarlane version, kind of bland on this guy. Blue, a little bit darker on him, lighter on him. Now he's more of a purple gloves and purple boots on this guy. This one, a little bit more pink. I'm not sure which one is more accurate, but I definitely prefer the look of the purple. Now my original one, the canister broke off and the peg is actually stuck in there, so the only way to fix that is to actually glue it back on. A DC Direct anime figure that broke? Who would have thought? That's sarcasm, as these things broke very easily back in the day. Now this one here kind of broke off, the glue came loose, but the peg's intact. So it's actually removable now, and I actually really like that. Now in the original DC Direct version, these sort of areas between his joints on his suit are made of rubber, and they're kind of deteriorating over time. Most of them aren't, but you can see the example here. Now McFarlane's version, they're not made of exactly the same rubber material. It's a little more plasticky, and that's going to have more longevity. And like I said before, there are actually 3 different versions of Mr. Freeze. This is from the GCPD Rogues Gallery 5-pack, this is the McFarlane version, and this is the original DC Direct single version. Now I looked at the episode, and I think the 5-pack has a better paint job than the single release. The purple is closer to the source material. Now some of the cell shading actually looked just like that in the episode. He had these lines sort of going down his arm, at least in some of the shots. Now his articulation kind of sucks. Those sort of rubber, I don't know even know what those things are around his joints, really obstruct the articulation. Now you saw some of it deteriorate on this guy. This one here actually really sort of broke through, but it gives his hand a ton more mobility than before, so. And each one is a little bit different. This guy has pretty much a pink paint job, this one has a purple one, and this one kind of in between. Now funny thing about their canisters on the back, the GCPD 5-pack version, that one is still permanently attached. McFarlane one, it came loose, but the peg's intact, so it's now removable, and I think that's really cool. Then the original version, the peg actually broke on the inside, so it's completely broken. One day I'll have to glue it back on. Just kind of interesting how all 3 of them held up differently over time. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now for his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing at about 6.1 inches tall, which can translate to 15.5 centimeters, and if you go to the top of the dome, about 6.6 inches tall. Now for his articulation. Let's go ahead and take the dome off. So his head here, the head and neck is one solid piece, rotates from side to side. does go forward and back a little bit. Can sort of tilt from one side to the other. Now, because the canister came loose, it can rotate. Shoulders on a ball joint goes out a little bit less than 90 degrees. There's ball joint side of there. But like I said, these things really obstruct the articulation. Goes up. And as it goes up, it kind of has to go outward to be able to fully go up. His elbow, single jointed, barely moves at all. Now, I showed you with the other one that was ripped, it can almost go in 90 degrees. Elbow does have rotation as well. His wrist, rotate, and it's going to be hinged. Torso is one solid piece. His waist does not move, so the torso and the crotch one solid piece. Legs, complete of splits. They go forward. Not much at all. I mean, look at that. His articulation really sucks. They go back more than they go forward. Single jointed knees, 90 degree bend. Then his ankle. Forward and back about that much, and that is it. He does have a boot cut for rotation. Now on the older DC Direct one, these rubbery things are a little bit further down. You can sort of see the articulation cut there. They go in a whole lot more than the new McFarlane one. These things are made of a little bit of a different material, and they're higher up, and it just totally prevents him from doing really any articulation in the elbow area, and that does hurt for him holding his freeze gun. Here's a look at all three versions of Mr. Freeze in his freeze lair with his wife Nora behind him. Now let's check them out. Next is some other action figures, starting off with some other Mr. Freeze figures. Here's the cel-shaded McFarlane re-release Mr. Freeze, next to the original single-release Mr. Freeze. And then here he is, next to the GCPD Rogues Gallery 5-pack Mr. Freeze, giving us three different unique DC Direct Batman the Animated Series Mr. Freeze figures. Then, next to the new Batman Adventures Mr. Freeze, here he is, next to a DST, or Diamond Select Toys Gotham Mr. Freeze. And here he is, next to all of my McFarlane Mr. Freeze figures. Then, next to all of my DC Direct and DC Collectibles Mr. Freeze figures. And now, next to the Mezco Mr. Freeze. And here, next to all my Mattel Mr. Freeze figures. And let us not forget the McFarlane 1966 Mr. Freeze. Here are absolutely all of my Mr. Freeze figures. There are a couple I'm missing, but I have most of them in the 6 and 7 inch scale. The next one to come out is going to be the Entertainment Earth exclusive Blacklight Mr. Zero. I actually just got charged for him today. Here he is, next to several different Kenner Frostbite figures. Frostbite is a henchman from the Batman and Robin movie. I wish they would make one in the 6 or 7 inch scale. Here's Mr. Freeze with the rest of his wave. Batman, Robin, and both versions of Scarecrow. And if you get the entire wave, you get to collect and build Condiment King. That guy is fantastic. And let's not forget the Batcycle, which I guess is sort of part of the wave as well. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, so you can see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you don't know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a DC Direct Batman animated figure, they're typically the 6 inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the smaller action figure lines I collect, and work my way larger. Here he is, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures, and some SH Figure Arts figures. And now, next to some Hasbro Marvel Legends, and some Mafex figures. Here's Mr. Freeze, next to some Mattel and Mezco DC figures. And here he is, next to both some Jazzwares and Mattel wrestling figures. Then, with some NECA and DC Direct figures. And now, with some DST or Diamond Select Toys, and some Jack-specific wrestling figures. And finally, next to some McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. So overall, it's a cool Mr. Freeze figure. It's based off Batman the Animated Series, which is a fantastic portrayal of Mr. Freeze. The figure itself looks good. It's smaller than I'd like. It's articulated less than I'd like. And it even has less accessories than I'd like. But this is one of my favorite versions of Mr. Freeze from the animated series. I would love this guy in 7 inch scale. It's also a little bit too much of the same. As you saw, this is the third version of pretty much the exact same figure. And I realize that's really good for people that missed them out the first time, but it's not very rewarding for people who have been getting them all since the beginning. Still, I'm happy to add this guy. I think the cel shading is about the best in the entire wave. It's very subtle, as I wish the other guys would be. On Batman and Robin, it's way too much. Articulation, mediocre. accessories. He's got plenty of hands, but I want other stuff. The freeze ray's good, but he should have the snow globe. Sculpt paint job, excellent. No issues there. If I were to rate this guy, I'm probably going to give him a 6.5 out of 10. Just wish he was a little bigger, moved a little better, you know, that sort of stuff. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.